Well, I'm back from my little trip to pick up the Volkswagen motor, but unfortunately, my son's not home yet, and I'm anxious to get to work on it. And it took two of us, it was real easy to put it in the back of the Yukon, but I'm really not interested in exploding a testicle trying to pick it up, so good thing I have a tractor. No, she does have brand new oil. I don't know why it was never brand. Oil's not sparkly, so that's a good sign. First thing I'm going to take off is get the tin out of the way on the front, get the alternator stand off there, oil cooler out of the way, then we'll spin it around and get the flywheel off. Whoever worked on this just absolutely drowned everything in number 2 Permatex. It's just leaking out everywhere. I'll go ahead and zip out the spark plugs since none of them are tight. Just the general condition of this engine, since they rebuilt it and then did nothing with it, kind of worries me. But hey, I'm going to take it all apart anyway. Well, I went to undo the gland nut, holds the flywheel on, from what I remember of my days with dune buggies. This baby was supposed to be crazy, crazy, stupid tight. Yeah, it wasn't. Who knows what I've got here. I got the nut off. Flywheel's off. 4 dowel pins. Yeah, Junior, nice of you to show up. He's home now. I had to get the tractor out because I didn't want to try lifting that out of the back by myself. I don't know what that crap is in there. It just be grease. It's like they greased them. We will pull the rockers and pull the heads. That's 2 different sizes of nuts. I don't know if that's a good sign or not that my little Walmart impact takes those off. You're thinking no. I know what you're thinking. I was thinking I might have you go get your DeWalt.
Still can.
I'm not that desperate yet.
I do not like that.
What?
You can pull those off with that.
I'm not sure what they're supposed to be towards. I mean, you'd think it'd probably be
More?
Well, just because this is Walmart, this is a good impact.
It's say it was a bad impact. But
You've said it's a bad impact before.
not exactly the strongest impact.
Kind of wimpy, I know. Kind of wimpy. Well, they weren't even consistent on where they put the smaller nut. Well, that's water. That's probably not good to become leaking out of your air-cooled engine. Oh, hell. Yep, she got water in her. These are 85.5 millimeter jugs, so this thing has been upgraded to a 1600. It's kind of, it does look like it's definitely been rebuilt. I mean, it looks like they put new pistons in it recently. Yeah, 85.45 on there. Too bad it got water in it. But those jugs do me no good anyway because I need 88s at least to get it to 28 horse. So we'll go ahead and pull them off and keep on going. And well, I better double check since it had different jugs on it. Yep, it's still a 69 millimeter stroke, so it's got at least a factory sized crank. We'll have to pull it out and see if it's forged or cast.
You're gonna have fun splitting the case.
Yeah. 4 tubes of Permatex holding it together. Yeah, it might that'd be a little stuff. Got that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking the old boy probably just dumped fresh oil in it to make it look good. I can't tell on the cam yet, but it may have some rust on it. All right, we'll go ahead and pull the other side off. It should look just like this. All right, pull the other side off. It didn't have any water in it, and everything looks good over here. Not that any of this really matters, because it's not what I'm going to use. One thing I did go ahead and check was the valve sizes, and they are the 35, 32, 35 millimeter intake, 32 exhaust, which is the size I wanted. They're the size of the 1600 dual ports. So that's good. The heads will be good. This side has had something get loose in the combustion chamber at one time and dinged it up a little bit, but these will have to be fly cut to accept the bigger jugs, so clean them up at the same time. Shouldn't be a problem. So the head should be good, or at least usable. All right, before I go and split the case, I'm gonna go ahead and double nut all the studs and get them pulled out and out of the way. I won't bore you with that. It does look like, looks like somebody has installed case savers, because I don't think they had those in there from the factory. So that's a nice plus, I guess. All right, we got all of the studs out. Some of the case saver inserts came out at the same time, but that's no problem. Next up, I'll be pulling these clips, getting the pistons out of the way. I'll do that now. Nice looking pistons. Too bad I can't use them. And the pistons are gone. Take this ring of bolts off and get this oil cup off there. I'll go ahead and take the bolts out of the bottom of the case. So what you got in there is that cover that had the drain plug in it. Got a gasket, and then this strainer assembly that fits up around the oil pickup tube. So we got all that out of the way. Like everything else, lots of Permatex. So I got those bottom case bolts out. I'm going to take these bolts out at the top. Take the oil pump apart here because that plate goes from side to side. A few more bolts there. And I think we should be ready to take out the main bolts. I'm really interested in the crank. She's got some end play. And he specifically mentioned that if you're going to run this, you need to set the end play. It hasn't been done. And I don't remember how to set the end play on these, whether they have shims. I'm assuming they have shims if you have to set it. So I'm wondering if something ain't jacked up with the crank. We're going to find out shortly. Whew. Took the cover plate off. Finally got the oil pump out of there. Have I mentioned there was a lot of Permatex on this? I didn't think I was ever going to get that pried up out of there. So now I think I am down. Should be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 studs. And she should split apart. But right now it's time for dinner. So I'm going to go eat and then I'll be right back. Alright, found 2 more small nuts, one here that I assume go all the way through. And then I broke all these free, so I'm going to buzz them out. We'll see if we can split it. She's trying to open up. Don't want to damage anything important. That's why I started at the back, since I'm going to cut it off. I will set it with the studs facing up. Lifter's falling out. I think it's just stuck on all the goo. There we go. Just a real quick look. Definitely had new bearings put in it. And they look good. Set that there so I can put stuff back where it goes. Alright, one thing we got is the camshaft looks good. I was kind of worried about it being rusty, but it's not. So that's another piece that can be used. Okay, as far as the case goes, it doesn't appear that any bearings have spun. Of course, it's filthy. I can't tell for sure if anything's cracked, but I doubt it. So we're going to call the case good for the moment. We'll set it in here. Okay, the last piece that I'm real interested in is the crank here. I'm going to go ahead and pull the rods, get it down to a bare crank, and make sure it is a steel crank as opposed to a replacement cast. Journals all look good as far as the mains. So I guess we only need those 2 mains anyway. Well, let me get the rods off there and we'll take a look at it. All right, everybody, I need your help with the crank. Number one, you know, I'm going by the plans that Maury Hummel put out. Got them from Scott Kassler. Said to whack the crank with a hammer. Should ring if it's forged, or if it's a steel crank, dull thud if it's cast. Kind of depends on where you hit it. And how you hold it. So if you got experience with these cranks, put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. And it does have VW stamped in it right there. Now I suppose the aftermarket crank could have been a VW. The other question. See that oil hole? Is that factory? I mean, I'm sure I can Google this stuff and figure it out too, but if you know right off the top of your head, let me know. Because the two mains are like that. I haven't pulled the gears off to get this bearing off, so. Kind of looks like it may be the same way. So if that's some kind of monkeying around somebody's done, I don't like it. But if it's factory, to improve the oiling, that's fine. But yeah, just let me know. Well, I went and answered some of my own questions. When then I did some Googling, it looks like these slots are factory. Even though they look kind of janky. It appears that they all have that. The other thing, it does appear that it is probably a forged crank. Supposed to stand it on end, tap a counterweight. Still not impressed with the way it rings, but the other way to ID them was the parting line here where the mold was. See how that's wide right there? That generally indicates forged crank. If it was a real narrow, just like a line, that would be cast. So, it's got a little ring to it. We're going to go with the idea it's forged. I shot an email to Scott Kassler to see how long it takes to get because he'll sell you a balanced assembly, which is the crank rods, bore kit, everything. It's like $600 for a 69 millimeter setup. And that might be the way to go by the time I get weights I would do the welding, but by the time I welded weights onto this crank and got new cylinders and everything, might just be better off to buy it from him, make sure it's exactly right. So I'm going to call it quits for now. Hey, we should have a good case, good heads, fairly good heads, good camshaft, possibly a good crank, some good rods. So we got a good start on this. I'll start cleaning stuff up, and then we can start chopping it in half. Like and subscribe, that way you can keep up on this build. Thanks for watching.